Welcome back to our 20th episode of Flippin' Friday, and this PC here has the potential to be literally the best looking gaming PC that I've ever built under $500 before. We're using all white components and a brand new all white case. I am really excited about this build today. For our performance parts, which I'm also excited about. First up, we have the CPU, and this is none other than the Intel i3-10100F. I paid $60 for this used on Mercari. You know that this is a pretty repeatable deal at this point, and I've used it plenty of times. The motherboard that it's gonna be plugging into is the Asus Prime B560. This was literally just the cheapest B460 or B560 that I could find. Paid $70 for this, of course, on Amazon Warehouse. For our RAM, this is some more YOLO all white 2x8GB. This is only clocked at 2666, but it was on sale for $48 brand new on Amazon. So I'm willing to get a little bit slower of a speed, especially with the 10100F, so it really doesn't matter. But for that great of a price, I thought it was worth picking up. And then for my favorite graphics card on the entire planet right now, this is the Asus Dual GTX 1066GB card. I paid $115 for this used on Mercari. You can get this for under $100 if you're a little bit more patient than I am. But yeah, those are the performance parts. Now we can start building. Starting with the CPU, again, like I said, we got another i3-10100F. You really cannot beat this CPU for PC flipping specifically. Now, if you're gonna do a personal build, you can make a strong case for spending a little bit more money on your CPU to get something like a 10400F or an 11400F if you're trying to save some money before going to Intel 12th gen. But for flipping, this is like one of the GOATs right now, so it's really tough to use anything else. And then our motherboard choice, this was, like I said, literally the cheapest Amazon Warehouse B460 or B560 motherboard that I could find. So that's why we went with this one. And this one just happened to also be black and white, which is going to fit our color theme perfectly. Using a used CPU from somewhere like Jawa or Mercari, and then pairing that with a motherboard from Amazon Warehouse, you literally just cannot go wrong with that combo for PC flipping. Real quickly, I just wanted to remind you guys that today's build was indeed activated with Windows like all my other PC builds and flips, and I personally use GVG Mall, which is also the sponsor of today's video. To celebrate their mid-year promotion for 2022, they're actually bumping up our normal 18% off discount up to 25% off, and that gets Windows keys and everything else down to some really affordable prices. They also have other great products on other software like Office 2021, and even some game keys from platforms like Steam, Origin, and Uplay, and they even have console stuff too, like PSN and Xbox prepaid cards as well. Activating that Windows 10 on your computer is super simple to do. The entire process of buying and activating takes like 5 minutes total, so make sure you click that first link down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code ZTT18 for 25% off. Before I install the SSD, this is the Patriot P310 480GB NVMe drive, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but this is also one of the new GOATs. I don't know how long this pricing is going to last, but this has been consistently on sale on Amazon for just $33, and this is not breaking any read or write speed records. I don't think it has DRAM. It's not rated super highly as an NVMe drive on the tier list, but the great thing about it is for PC flipping, you can market this as just simply a 500GB NVMe drive. And at the end of the day, for PC flipping, that's honestly all that really matters. So I would highly recommend getting this drive if you're trying to save some money on your flip. A slight problem with this CPU cooler, and honestly it's mostly the motherboard's layout, but we're not going to be able to install the SSD heatsink on here, which isn't a big deal at all, especially for, like I said, a very ultra budget NVMe drive. But there's not enough room for the extra height of this CPU heatsink to go on here without touching the bracket of the CPU cooler. So definitely be aware of that. It's not a huge deal. We are losing a little bit on the aesthetics because this PCB is kind of blue, but thankfully that sticker is almost mostly white, so we should be good. But now we'll be able to fully install the bracket on this cooler. Definitely something to be aware of. Sometimes the compatibility of these parts just doesn't line up 100% perfectly, but this will be fine. I've never actually had to install vinyl on this Thermaltake BM2. I'm sure some people are gonna question covering up the vents. I've never seen vents on this side of the power supply where we do usually install the vinyl. So I don't think it's gonna be a huge issue. The power supply is still gonna be intaking air through the fan on the bottom side of it, and then it's gonna be exhausting it out the side. Maybe there's a little bit of air that tries to exhaust this way, but like it's still a standard fan config and cooling config for a power supply. So I don't think this is gonna be a huge issue. We're gonna roll with it, but somebody feel free to let me know down in the comment section if you would highly not recommend it for a setup like this. Now that the power supply and the motherboard are prepped, it's time to take a look at this case, and I'm actually really high on this case.
Lesson number 2, don't get high in your own supply, because not everybody follows the rules, huh?
Hopefully it lives up to my expectations and lives up to the expectations of the cool name like the Z1 Iceberg. I really like the name Iceberg for a case, but I randomly found this while searching on Newegg for just searching for white cases sorted by the cheapest price to the most expensive. And this is one of the first ones that came up. There were no reviews on it, so I think it's brand new, but it costs $70 and it's micro ATX, which I really like to keep the total build price down. It's got our cutout so we can show off some vinyl action, and it even comes with 3 pre-installed fans, so we don't actually need to add any extra fans to them. Now, the one thing I am discovering right off the bat though, which you guys know I get a little picky about this, but the color temperature on the fans versus the case there's a serious discrepancy there. So I'm not sure how well the camera's gonna pick it up, but the fans are definitely a little bit more yellow where the case is a little bit more blue. So a little bit warmer white and cooler white. I hate when products do this. It's okay when different manufacturers have different shades of white, but when all of this is just from Zalman, you would have liked to see that match up a little bit more, but it doesn't have a ton of airflow in the front, but we do have the side panel here with some airflow holes. Cable management doesn't look like it's gonna be terribly tricky. It's got some brackets here for zip ties and all that, a good amount of thickness on the back of the side panel. Hopefully this lives up to the Iceberg name, but we shall see. I'm looking forward to trying it out. This cable management that I'm trying to deal with right now is a little bit nitpicking. I really hate when all white cases include black cables for the case fans, because the black cable up against the back of the white side panel is just gonna be super contrasting, and that's not what I'm looking for. So what I just did here was I used a white zip tie, because that's gonna show in the front side of the case, to keep these black cables out and away instead of looping over across here where you would really be able to see that on the front side. So just trying to hide the black cable against a white case. That's all I'm trying to do here. Taking a couple extra steps to do that, but it's worth it in my opinion. And the last part is the graphics card. And like I said in the intro, this is honestly my favorite GPU on the entire planet right now, especially for PC flipping. The Asus Dual 1060 6GB card. And shout out to a lot of members, honestly, in our ZTT Discord community, because I've seen so many people start using this card now that the price kind of makes more sense for PC flipping. So the reason why this is so valuable is at the end of the day, it's only a 1060. So it's not gonna cost a lot of money. You're gonna be able to put it into budget builds like this, but it's going to allow you to create these budget builds with the high-end aesthetic. So most people, especially the casual audience, which you're most likely gonna sell a PC flip to, is just gonna think that like white components and white, like this does not look like a $480 build. So it's gonna let you get away with slightly higher profit margins just on the color scheme alone. And now that the GPU shortage is well over and prices are starting to stabilize, even on these more like fancy budget graphics cards, I'm seeing a ton of these go for under 150. I would shoot for under 120, but several members in our ZTT Discord server have been sniping these for under 100. I just saw somebody get one for 80, which is just obnoxious. So it's not the best price for a 1060 by itself, but for the white one specifically, I really think it's worth paying a couple extra dollars because that's going to directly increase the amount of profit that you can get. And here you can just see it again. This does not look like a sub $500 build. It's only possible because of this graphics card. If you put an all black graphics card, it just wouldn't have that same effect on this. I'm in love with the Asus Dual right now. I'm gonna buy more, as many as I can. I have a filter on Mercari for it. Every time they show up, I'm gonna buy one. Boom, they're all spinning. Looks good to me. Here you have the full parts list, and as you can see, I paid under $500 for this entire thing like I just said, and you can easily get a solid profit on this one. Now, most people are going to be fully aware that the 10100F and GTX 1060 are still budget components at the end of the day, but with some patience, I think you could definitely squeeze out $600 or maybe even $650 for this one, resulting in $100 or $150 profit. You absolutely would not be able to do that if your build was just a basic color scheme like black, but with this being all white, people are certainly willing to pay more money for it, and the aesthetic over everything mindset is definitely valuable in a build like this. And if you do want to see what that 10100F and GTX 1060 6GB combo are capable of, Sam of course has us covered with a quick 10-game benchmarking run, and here are the results. This is kind of a weird pairing as the 10100F is much newer than the 1060, but honestly, as you can see, they match up pretty well, and it's a solid combo for some 1080p gaming action. And as always, this build will be for sale over on the ZachsTechDrift.com website. This will go up on the next October 1st launch, and if you do want to try to snag one of my builds, please join us in the ZTT Discord community because that's where we post all of the updates. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Flippin' Friday. Feel free to click the card that's on the screen now to make sure you're caught up on all the other episodes, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.